Okay, here we are, finally back for another review. It has been quite a while already since the last review. Unfortunately, I can't control Mother Nature. She's been doing whatever she has been doing out there, so pretty much what's been happening every time I get a free chance to be able to do a review, it rains. And of course, the majority of my content is performed outside, so you're stuck with the boring beige wall today. So I just needed to start getting some content back out there again. But yeah, never fear, I haven't gone anywhere. As I say, I've just been limited by the weather. But enough of that. Time to get started on the review. But if you have not yet done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification. That way you can stay up to date with all future content. Now, in today's video, I am going to be reviewing this. This is the latest release from Starward. So, bit of disclosure before we get started. This bottle has been sent to me from Starward, but again, just like with the previous review of theirs that I have done, the awesome thing is that they have pretty much allowed me full creative freedom with this. So yeah, 100% genuine opinions for this review. So let's go. We'll take a dive into this and see how we go. Now, a lot of you that have been following me for some time already know that I'm quite a big Starward fan already, and I have been able to review quite a few Starward whiskies in the past. If you have missed any of those, I will put a link in the description box down below so you can catch up on the other Starward reviews that you may have missed out on. There's quite a few there already. They are a fantastic distillery to discover. So let's get cracking. This is the Starward Peated Finish. This may look quite familiar. Previously, we had the Starward Unexpeated, which essentially what they have done is that they have sourced barrels from Islay, and then filled the casks with their spirit. I believe that they use the same base as the Starward Nova. One of the main differences between this one, the peated finish, and the unexpeated is that this is a little bit older. They were both filled in 2017, but this was bottled this year in 2022, and the previous one was bottled in 2021. Also, another difference between this as well is the amount of time that this has spent in those Islay casks. I believe that the unexpeated was only in there finishing for about 9 months, where this has had double the time. That has been sitting in the cask for an extra 18 months for those Islay casks. So I think in that time it has allowed a little bit more balance to come through on the spirit. But let's pour a little bit and see what we get. So we've got our pour. I should also mention as well that this has been bottled at 48% ABV. So for me, that's usually around my sweet spot. I love whiskies that are at about the 46-48%. They just normally hit the best at that point. You don't really need to add any water to it to bring it down. It's just the perfect sweet spot for the whiskey. But let's get started on the nose. The first thing that kind of happens is that normally when you see Islay in a on a whiskey label, you naturally expect heavy, smoky, and peaty, but that isn't the case with this. The first thing you will generally notice is these nice ripe berry notes. So think of things like ripe raspberries, sour strawberries. Some other fruits are starting to come in now. So apples, pears, so your typical kind of orchard fruits coming in, but I'm also getting a hint of pineapple, a little bit of mango, so it does have a tropical vibe initially on the nose, and then once those fruits kind of taper off, then that's when the smoke and the peat from the Islay cask starts to come in. So think of like a campfire smoke. The actual peated element itself is very subtle. It's not very intense at all. Um, the main focus, I think, is more of the actual smokiness that's being drawn from the cask. The nose on this is actually quite similar to more of a Speyside whiskey now that I'm actually starting to analyze it a little bit more. I'm also getting hints of licorice, so the oaky peppery notes are coming through as well. So now I'm starting to get quite a bit of the like vanilla, black pepper. At the very end there is also like a touch of like rum raisin dark chocolate. All right, let's get onto the palate and see how we go. So cheers. Now here's where the Islay influence comes in. So first of all, this is a very dry whiskey. That first sip that you get when the alcohol starts to evaporate just instantly dries out your mouth, and then you just start salivating after that. So it just goes from very dry to just very like syrupy. The mouthfeel is fantastic. You get this really nice peppery, yeah, a nice sharp peppery burn that comes in as well. So those oak notes are definitely very prominent on the forefront of the palate. The smoke is quite intense. It's also very ashy, and then once you kind of break away from, I guess, the intensity of that first sip, uh, then the rest of the flavor profile starts to come through. So you get this very dusty, malty edge. Then the fruits start to come in, but at this point as well, the fruits are still kind of subtle. You have more of like a vanilla, caramel, again, green apple. It definitely has a tang of like a Granny Smith apple. I'm starting to get a little bit of baking spice notes coming in as well, so touches of cinnamon, nutmeg. Still, that little licoricey vibe is there. That's normally, so licorice is normally a note that I don't always enjoy very often, but I do enjoy the way that it is playing around with the smoke of on this. Again, those ripe red berries are still there. So I'm thinking still those raspberries, strawberries. Um, it does have a lot of those like standard like red wine tannins, but being that this is also, I believe it has also been partially matured in the red wine casks as well. You would naturally expect that from a Starward whiskey. The other thing as well, although you do have to kind of search for it, but again, this is the core flavor profile of the Starward flavor coming in, and again, that is that banana, but this time it is a smoky, unripened banana that I'm kind of getting at the moment. But the banana characteristic is still there. I'm thinking if you don't get that in a Starward, then maybe you're not generally having a Starward at all. You've probably been tricked. That is always the main feature of a Starward whiskey. Now, moving on to the finish. Surprisingly, considering how intense that initial sip was from on the palate, the finish actually tapers off and mellows out quite well. Again, it's still a little bit dry, very ashy, uh, but now I'm starting to get notes of like a mocha coffee kind of vibe. So you get a little bit of, say, sweet chocolate. There's a certain creaminess to it as well, like a creamy buttery texture, which for me kind of feels odd on the finish. That normally seems like something that you would normally get initially on the palate, but it's something that repeats on you. The oak influence as well, I feel, is a bit more prominent on the finish. I'm getting lots of vanilla notes. Still, the black pepper is there, not as intense as what it was on the nose or the palate, but you still get those little wafts of the pepper coming through. Of course, one of the main staples of this is definitely the smoke. So you're definitely going to be feeling that smoke just constantly rising back up again. And you get that from the start to the end of this. It is quite a smoky influence whiskey. Not really peated as such, but definitely the smoke influence is there. I'm getting a bit of a toffee apple vibe going on. So you've got this caramelized sugar note coming on. mixing in with those apple notes as well. Just going off by the flavor, I think that's pretty much all I really need to say about this. I believe that the so I was lucky enough to be able to receive this bottle, say, ahead of the actual initial release. But I think the proper release of this will be coming up in a day or two. I believe it should be the 2nd of August. I could be mistaken, so don't quote me on that. But I believe that some of the pre-sale releases of this should already be starting to come out. So if this is something that interests you, I definitely suggest giving it a go. It is definitely not a typical Starward whiskey. So if you generally aren't a peated or Islay fan, I don't know if this is going to be something that you would naturally go for. But if you are somebody that enjoys the experimentation that Starward puts out, I think this is definitely a whiskey that is worth checking out. But yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about that. My name is Andrew, and I'll see you all again on the next video. KIPPIS.
Oh, you're still here. Well, why not consider continuing on with some more content and subscribing? I'll see you next time. Bye bye.